This week on the Bart and Paul show, we're going to discuss something a little bit different, which is in the Book of Thoth, page XI, and it's called the Bibliographical Note. And it's an interesting journey through Aleister Crowley's life, and it's a kind of a strange thing, if you're wondering, as what it's to do with tarot. So we thought we'd go through it and see if we can dissect a few things in here and hopefully bring a bit of light to the subject. Now, one of the first things he does, he actually starts with the dates that he was initiated into the Golden Dawn. Hello, Bart, how are you?
Hello, Paul, good evening. I am doing fine. It doesn't even surprise me that you chose this subject.
Why?
Well, because a while ago, when we did the last pages,
yes,
we did the last. Remember what was it? And these triplicities or something.
Yes.
The vital triads. Well, it makes just as much sense to do the last page because it's the last page, as it makes sense to do the first page.
Well, this is
just for being the first makes it special.
But this isn't the first page because it's page XI.
Oh, it is, but it's sort of the first. It is the first text after the contents.
Is it?
Yes.
So, okay, the contents here. We had yes, you're right. Bibliographical notes.
And Woa is before it still, but yeah.
That's right at the front. That's the frontispiece, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, right, we did our homework for this one, as you can tell. Okay, so where does Crowley start? He starts with the date of 18th of November, 1898, of the Common Era, EV, he says. So that's pretty much almost the last year but one of the Victorian age. Was Victoria? She was still alive, wasn't she? She was, yes. I think she was. And so this is the...
Idea.
No, dear, no. Note to self, check when Queen Victoria died. So this is the day he was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And he took the name Perdurabo, which means I shall endure to the end. He pretty much kept on going with such a dissolute life. He did pretty well. Maybe the drugs preserved him, I don't know.
Hey, pretty soon we'll be celebrating its birthday. It'll be 123 years ago on the 18th of November.
Yeah, well, we're not far off. Maybe we should have saved that for this one. But anyway, so was Daisy's birth?
From Crowley. Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
What?
Okay, so you're going from that. So this is his birth into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yeah, it's the first day to see it.
Right, I thought, no, because his birthday's, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Shame on us.
That's right. And then he says in the February of the year following, he attained the grade of Practicus and was accordingly entrusted with the secret attributions of the tarot, especially those of the Artu. See pages 5 to 10. Pages 5 to 10. Well, I'm not quite sure what that's about in that case then, because 5 to 10 doesn't cover that, does it? So he obviously stuck a load of stuff in there before he actually did the major arcana.
Well, on page 10, at the end of page 10, it says, summary of the questions hitherto discussed.
Which are not what this is about.
The origin of the tarot is quite irrelevant.
Yes. It is for our purposes, you know, it's we could do it, I suppose. So it's interesting, it says entrusted with the secret attributions of the tarot, because of course the other comment he made at that time was that he was entrusted with the Hebrew alphabet, which is rather a snide sort of comment about the whole thing. But he moved really fast. If he was initiated in 18th of November, and in February he was at Practicus, he moved really, really quickly, because usually it takes quite a few months, doesn't it, to move through these grades. He's gone through 4 grades, basically, hasn't he?
It is. When you read it, it's astonishing.
Yeah, it's really, really fast. Very quick. So then he says...
He was born in 75. So he was 23 then.
23. So then he says he worked daily on these manuscripts, which is the secret attributions of the tarot, which are in the big yellow golden dawn book, which actually that's be a good subject to do sometime, Bart, because you'll get a secretary to make a note so that we can be reminded.
Of well, you say it's in the big yellow one, but it's also in the black one, I thought.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's in the things. Yeah, yeah.
There's not that much difference between all these bricks, eh?
Pretty much the same. The Equinox stuff and the Equinox stuff mostly he nicked from the Golden Dawn anyway, before he started writing his own kind of things. So he's working daily on the tarot right from the start. Okay, so in 1899 he is studying the tarot on a daily basis. So when you sort of see the Book of Thoth, which appeared in 1944, when it came out. Something like that, isn't it? When did it appear? Yeah, March the 21st, 1944.
Yes.
Okay. So he's been reading the tarot, studying the tarot for 45 years, we can say.
Almost as long as you, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Not quite. No, he's been studying it longer than me. Yes, yes. Probably didn't do as many readings as me, probably, but that's by the by, isn't it? Your better things to do. And he was personally instructed by MacGregor Mathers, who is DDCF, and the very honoured Freitas Yahior, which is Alan Bennett, which of course Alan Bennett is dedicated in the Book of Thoth as well. Yahior means "let there be light." It's that phrase in the first verses of Genesis. And he's like Crowley's guru, really. The man he was probably closest to all his life and really respected. And Alan Bennett brought Buddhism to the UK. They spent a bit of time in Ceylon, didn't they? And then they ended up here again. And he was also apparently very good at invoking Goetia. He was a master. I think he also did the invocation to the unborn, what's name, didn't he? The
Bornless.
Yeah, the Bornless Ritual, I think, was his kind of working as well. So he was a very, this is one of the top magicians. MacGregor Mathers, of course, is the mainstay of the Golden Dawn.
Bromlin. He translated the Bromlin manuscript.
He did, and he also did quite a few other stuff as well. I mean, because he was a math, he could speak French.
It's thanks to him that they mix Galonga instead of calamus in their anointing oil. I've seen the manuscripts, and it is a bit sloppy written, and it's been
we'll forgive him. We'll forgive him.
Yeah, of course. But no, what was it? They mistook calamus for Galonga.
Yeah. Well,
so now in all philemic rituals.
Yeah, well, who cares? I don't do rituals, so I don't, I'm not bothered. But why it would be important, I don't know. And also Volo Nocer, George Cecil Jones. So he had the top people he was studying with right at the start. And this is, in essence, his tribute to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and the influence on the Book of Thoth. Because the Book of Thoth wasn't written in 1940 or 41 or 42 or 43. It was obviously written a long, long time before then. And he added some bits in. And I think this biographical note is probably one of the last things he wrote. It had to have been, actually, didn't it? Because as we will see. So, and then he says he continued these studies alone during the first voyage around the earth in search of hidden wisdom. Of course, he went to China and he went to Mexico and he went to a lot of places as well, didn't he? He had the money, and he also ended up in Egypt, of course, with his wife, Rose Kelly. and they received the Book of the Law on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of April in 1904. So, and he's a modest man, Aleister Crowley, because he says, chosen by the masters to carry out their sublime plan. He began to prepare the way for the establishment of the new Aeon, as they instructed him. Chosen by the masters, they, there. So he's talking about the masters in plural, isn't he? Because normally we think of Aiwass as the writer of the Book of the Law, but clearly he's including other beings in this thing. Do we know who they are, Bart?
No.
Off the top of your head?
Yeah, knew it. Horus.
Well, no, they're gods. Divine masters, the hidden masters, you know. Madame Blavatsky was big on those things. It was a big kind of thing in the Victorian times, the 19th and early 20th century, the hidden masters. So the Equinox of the Gods for a very full and detailed account of this, the most important event in his career, which is, he's saying there, is the reception and the understanding and workings out of the Book of the Law, which incidentally has many references to the Tower in there, isn't he? So particularly the major arcana and things. So Aiwass was obsessed about tarot as he was. Funny that, isn't it? Yes, Bart, you've got a point.
Say, though,
You're going to say something.
Yes. When I started studying Crowley, first I got myself a tarot deck, and then, you know, you become interested, and it's quite difficult in Belgium here to find things about Aleister Crowley. I remember that was a red flag for me. Hey up, he's received the Book of the Law, he's the chosen one. I thought, you know, at first, hey up, here we go, another one who thinks he's Jesus.
Well, he's pretty anti-Christianity, wasn't he? So
yeah, it was a bit, because even that I find a bit, how do you say? This is his own experiences from the past that he's projecting on
this is the problem of the self-aggrandizement, isn't it? That happens in these things. You know, you get expanded ego. You need an expanded ego to deal with this stuff in the first place. Being modest and humble ain't going to get you anywhere in this stuff.
No, but you have to, if you look at the impact, Ali, I mean, the whole theory that he's explaining is based on the Bible.
Yeah, but he's also based
ambiguity of the situation.
Yeah, but no, you're actually talking about the teachings of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn here. So these are the teachings of Yod He Vav.
No, I mean Kabbalah. If you look at
but it's not that's not the Bible. That's not the Bible.
It's based on Genesis.
Yes, but that's so what?
So you can't. That's the Bible. Genesis is in the Bible.
And what's the point?
And well, he's embracing the whole Kabbalistic system, which is based on Genesis.
Well, it's the Hebrew alphabet, isn't it?
Yes, and all the tree of life is based on let there be light, and he saw it was good.
Yeah, well, no, that's not really how it works, Bart.
Check the book of Arian Kaplan. If you want, I'll take it, I'll read it to you. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, but that's the Sefer.
You are a very clever man, but you should know this.
It's the Sefer Yetzirah.
Yeah, the tree of life. And the Sefer Yetzirah, Arian Kaplan explains that you have to look at the grammatics of the lines, and when God says, and he saw it was good, that means a path. And when there's this, it means a Sephirah.
But that's also, there are also people who don't entirely agree with Arian Kaplan's assessment of all of that as well. So I don't know why we're getting so a bit heated up about it.
Well, because I find there is something, how do you say? I think it would be interesting to analyze what his problem with Christianity really is.
Well, but that's you know, the Plymouth Brethren. You'd have to start with that one. And
exactly. So it's personal dramas.
And the only book who's allowed to read as a child was the Bible. nothing else. So, you know, he's beaten into him. You know, it's a bit like the classics you learn at school, you know, Sided with Rosie and books like this. And as an adult, you never read them because you read the bloody things at school.
Yeah, that's it. You've been taught to hate it as a kid.
Yeah. So then he says he accordingly published the previously secret attributions of the tarot in book 777, which is, and he gives the full title here. Let's go with book 777, Vel Prolegomena Symbolica ad System Skeptico Mysticae Viei Explicandae Fundamentum Hieroglyphicum Sanctissimorum Scientiae Sommae. Yeah, we don't know what that means either.
Google it.
Google it, yeah. So he's making a clear link, isn't he? He joined the Golden Dawn. He studied the tarot with MacGregor Mathers, Alan Bennett, and George Cecil Jones, amongst others. And then he received the Book of the Law. And then the sublime plan evidently included publishing the secret attributions of the tarot in book 777. And of course, book 777 was a notebook created probably by Alan Bennett. And it was a way of, you know, we've done a few videos on 777 as well. So we're kind of seeing a plan unfolding here of what's going on. Then he switches back to Eliphaz Levi, who, of course, Eliphaz Levi died in the same year he was born in 1875.
He thought he was Eliphaz Levi's reincarnation.
Yeah. The incarnation of Eliphaz Levi. Following the tradition of Eliphaz Levi, much of his magical writing is modelled on or adorned by references to the tarot. So he's making it clear there. If you know, magicians don't get this, and tarot readers don't either. It's worth stating again, much of his magical writing is modelled on or adorned by references to the tarot. Much of his writings. So, you know, you cannot separate out his magical writings from the tarot, because he's saying the tarot right from the start. He's doing this timeline thing here, making it abundantly clear how important the tarot is to his system and his writings. So we have to take that on board. So, Bart, you're going to do the next one, Sword of Song?
Ambrosi, do I read in English or in Flemish? Ambrosi.
Do it in Flemish. Do it in Flemish.
Ambrosi Magi Hortus Rosarum. Or the Sword of Song, 1904.
I think it's Ambrosii.
Ambrosii. But the I, this is the English I is only pronounced in England like that. Outside of England.
Yeah, he was English. And your point is?
Well, Ambrosia, and then it's Magi. I would read.
Yes.
Ambrosii, Magi, Hortus, Rosarum.
Yes. Well, that's another book we can do another session on, can't we, at some point? The Sword of the Song. There's lots of references in there to the tarot, as you kind of expect, by including him in this biographical thing. Or bibliographical. It's not biographical, it's bibliographical. So these are books you need to study in order to understand properly the Book of Thoth. Then we have the next, so that was in 1904. He wrote that in 1904, which is probably sometime after March 8th, 9th and 10th of, or 8th, 9th and 10th of April, which is with the Book of the Law. So he's a busy boy that year, the Book of the Law and the Sword of Song.
Well, and he didn't make much of a fuss about the Book of the Law initially when he got it. He
well, he lost it, and then he found it some years later. Funny that, isn't it?
He can come up with these weird stories here. So.
It's dodgy. It's dodgy.
And who was it? I was talking to a lady, and they it's also a lineage, a group, and they believe that Crowley actually stole everything from Rose Kelly. She was the one who had the vision. She was the one who got the Book of the Law, and Crowley just he took the limelight.
Well, I think he was quite good at taking the limelight, wasn't he, over his life? Yeah, but it's not. You know, you have to realise a lot of things that said about the Book of Law we don't know are true. It's what people believe, which may or not be based in fact.
It's more a legend.
It's already a legend, isn't it? He made it a legend in his own lifetime, which is pretty impressive. So then the next book is The Wake World, or Honks on Pax, in 1907, which is another interesting book where he sort of, it's to do with the palaces, isn't it? I seem to remember.
It's the Tree of Life, eh?
The Tree of Life, and he has, and she goes through the things. And the Wake World, you know, it's a VV kind of thing that's going on there as well, isn't there? So you've got all of these sort of things going on. So there's two books which are kind of literary versions of the Tarot and the Tree of Life, and he's mingling the two together. And there's actually notes on the side, so you can actually work things out what's going on. Then this is the how's your Latin on this one, Bart? I'll do the first bit. Liber XXX.
Vel secoli sub figura, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 418. 418, yeah, of course.
Number of abracadabra.
Yes.
And
of the angels of the 30 ethers and the voice and the vision and the voice from 1911.
So yes, and actually quite a few of the major arcana, the universe card, the lovers card, the art card, the fortune card, are kind of based upon these visions, and also the Magus card as well, from memory. I think there's a bit more to it as well. So this is one. There's a middle appendix in the Book of Thoth where he's cut and pasted these visions to give you a reference of where they come from. So now he's brought in. So we've got the Golden Dawn, we've got the Book of the Law, we've got the Book 777, the Secret Attributions, which is to do with the 32 piles, which is Kabbalistic, and all of these things, plus the Sword of Song and the Wake World, and then we swivel onto the Enochian ethers, which he famously met Korans on in the deserts in Tunisia with what's his face? I've forgotten his name now. Anyway, there's also
who he went into the desert with, eh?
Yes, Practicus. Was it Practicus? No.
No, wasn't that Cecil Jones?
No, I don't think it was. No. Anyway. So the vision, the voice. So the Enochian system is part of all this as well. And the Enochian system is kind of the scary stuff of the magical systems that was received by John Dee and Edward Kelly in Elizabethan times, basically. So that's a whole other area to kind of look at. Then I'm going to do the next one. In 1913, he publishes the Book of Lies, falsely so called. So there are 91 chapters, which corresponds to Arman, and it is 8 times 13. Is that right? 7 13s. 7 13s.
7 13s.
7 13s. 13 is the number of tarot, actually. It's not 78, because 6 times 13 gives you 78. So that's the 13 is a secret number of the tarot. And there are a lot of references to tarot in the Book of Lies. And we actually did a chapter, didn't we, on.
And it was published in 1913.
Yes, 1913. Yes. So it's a couple of years after the Vision and Voice, which is the big one. So he's been a very busy boy in these things. And then we move on to Magic in Theory and Practice, Book 4, Part 3, in 1929. Which of course was a period when he was in Italy, wasn't he? At what's the name of the place he was at? Got into all sorts of trouble there with Mussolini, didn't he?
Oh yeah, in Italy.
Yes, in Italy. Yes.
Cefalù.
Cefalù. Yes.
Was it Sardinia?
Something like that. But it was all, it was lots of scandals went on there and all sorts of things and stuff. He was a naughty boy there as well.
Oh yeah, and somebody got poisoned there by some drink.
Yeah, he drank the water when he wasn't supposed to when he died.
And there was a big fuss here. And something with a cat as well.
Could be, So he's listed here basically his primary writings as a evolutionary steps in the process of creating the Book of Thoth, and it's a pretty complete book list. If you really want to study the Book of Thoth, it's the things you need to do. There's an awful lot of it, and we also then he goes on back to publishing the Tarot according to the Golden Dawn in Equinox, Volume 1, numbers 7 and 8, and that was in 1912.
Isn't that the same? That's in the Golden Dawn?
Yes, it is, but I think it's slightly different from where he spoke about earlier. Gets a bit confusing on this stuff. I mean, you need to have some really, anal bookworms and stuff to figure out these things and do the different versions and stuff.
We're not anal bookworms, are we?
Sort of things where I lose the will to live, basically. So now he's gone through his education and revelations because they incorporate many of his mystical visions and magical visions and magical systems that are all to do with the Book of Thoth. Not much about fortune telling here, is there? And just to make the point, he does the next bit, which we were discussing this before we sort of started making this video. It's almost it's kind of gilding the lily here, isn't he? With all of these things.
He's giving us a subject list.
Yeah. So in the other way of reading this, yes, these are the grades that he went through and the dates. But you could also see that as the magical grades that you could study in terms of tarot as well, because many of the grades had the major arcana as part of the rituals, you see. So there we go. So he got to Adeptus Minor in January 1900. So there's a bit of a gap between Practicus and to Adeptus Minor. Then he got to Adeptus Major 6 = 5. Taking the motto Ol Sonov Varesagi, which is part of the Enochian language, basically. So Enochian, good subject to study in terms of the tarot as well.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, well. Then we have Adeptus Exemptus, 7 = 4, and took the motto OYMH. I'm not sure if I got that right, but that was in 1909. There's 5 years gap. Yes, but I mean, April. So he's taken in April 1904. He took the Adeptus Major thing, which is pretty much the same time as he received the Book of the Law as well, 8th, 9th, and 10th of April. Then Magister Templar, 8 = 3. Magister Templar basically puts you at the level of Bina, the third Sephira, way above the It's in the supernal triangle, basically, above the abyss. And he took the same motto as the one he had in October 1906, which was bestowed upon him as Vi Vero Universum Vivus Vici, which you can see as V. 5 V's. Yes, 5 V's. And it's he puts the reference in there to Liber 418. And he also mentions VVVV in the, is that High Priestess or the Empress, isn't it? One or two of those cards there.
Which one?
I can't remember. And no, it's probably the High Priestess. I can't remember everything, Bart. You know, it's too much. And then he took, in October 12, 1915, he took the grade of Magus 9 equals 2. Which is, and the motto is the Great Beast.
That's just below Ipsissimus.
Yes. He was too humble to go the whole hog.
He was a very modest man, he was.
You believe that, if you believe it. So the Magus, you know, the Magus card is the title of the 9 equals 2. So the full card would then, in that case, be Ipsissimus, if you're following that sort of logic as well. And of course, that's the first card of the tarot deck, isn't it? So we're in pretty exalted territory here, basically. So that's kind of the way it sort of works so far. Have you got any comments so far, Bart?
Any comments? Yeah, I've got plenty of comments, but which are relevant. Yes, like it did strike me. It does strike me. It struck me when I started reading about Crowley that he did leave his mark wherever he went. Yeah. He started with the Golden Dawn, and I heard when he left Golden Dawn, it was with huge arguments with. Was it?
Yeah, well, the arguments were about whether the origins of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn were based on a forgery.
Because he interrupted his Brommelin ritual in Boleskine for that.
Yeah, see, that's true sacrifice there, Bart. Maybe you should learn something from that.
And what was that with Yeats? The story about him and Yeats.
Yeah, well, well, it's sort of MacGregor Mathers got thrown out of his own order, and he ended up sort of languishing in Paris with Moina Mathers. And I think Crowley was there, and Crowley went back to get all the stuff, and there was this big fight with W.B. Yeats. And W.B. Yeats actually took over the order after that as well, so which is another story in the thing. So Crowley wasn't...
They were shouting spells at each other, and they threw him off the stairs. And
yeah, I mean, it wasn't Crowley's fault. That, I mean, the thing is, actually, if there hadn't been this big schism, then we'd have never heard of the Golden Dawn anyway, because it would have been an obscure gentleman's club and then no one knew anything about. But because of all this, and of course, then there's the court cases as well that came out with all of this, you see. So it's the nature of these things to have schisms and fall apart. So one day, Bart, will not be talking to each other.
Hey, but like now when people speak of Israel Regordi and of MacGregor Mathers, they talk about great men.
Yes.
But if it wouldn't have been for Crowley, nobody would probably know them anymore now.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because Israel Regordi, because he published the Big Yellow Golden Dawn book, and he got really,
slandered.
Yeah. But he was also the secretary to Aleister Crowley at the time as well, and also, of course, he had the big connections with the Wera Golden Dawn in New Zealand. So, and he helped write some of the study notes and things for students to learn. So, it's a strange one about, how he's been accepted back, but for a time everyone was really angry and upset. But the thing is, if you don't, if you don't have the power and the knowledge and stuff, all of these things don't count for much anyway. So it's one of those strange sort of things that go on. So yeah, so Crowley wasn't to blame for the splitting up. He's brave for a lot of things, but splitting up the Golden Dawn wasn't. It wasn't his fight because he wasn't around when it was started up, and it's between the founders and what went on, and he turned up much later.
Yeah, and then came the OTO, but it also ended in with trouble. With the OTO, he wanted to destroy the OTO.
That's the nature of these orders. They do that. I mean, you know, there's the Monty Python sketch in the Life of Brian, isn't it? Where he talks about the splitters and all this kind of stuff. It could be exactly the same thing as the Golden Dawn and all these things. So then he goes on to, so then he makes this point, during all this time, the tarot was his daily companion, guide, and object of research. Through all of that, his personal journey through the grades, and so, yeah, but that's interesting actually, because I'm not sure he would have been in the order, the Golden Dawn order in those times. Oh, I can't remember. There's people who, historians who go on about this stuff. And
well, on 18 November 1898, he was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yes.
So that's quite early, eh?
Yeah, but I mean, but he was still there at 1915, nearly 1916 as well. That's pretty much the beginning of World War I. Basically, it already started at that point. So he's been studying the tarot every day. So you think, you know, the little bit of the Book of Thoth is the product of, when he says it's the product of his entire knowledge, he's not kidding at this point, is he? Because this is what he did. And then he says he succeeded in uniting under the schema of the Holy Kabbalah, of which the tarot is the greatest single element. Not a bit part tacked on. It's the greatest single element.
Of the Holy Kabbalah.
Of the Holy Kabbalah. Depends how you spell it as to which version we're looking at, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. And all philosophical and magical systems soever. So there's nothing left out here. Everything, the kitchen sink of magic, is in the Book of Thoth. And he says, including that of the Chinese, the Taoism, and the I Ching as well, which Frieda Harris studied the I Ching as part of her joining the Argentian Maelstrom in order to start painting the Book of Thoth, because he had to get her in before, you know, he could teach her stuff. And then he said this and his Naples arrangement. So this is the importance. We've done several videos on the Naples arrangement recently. This is how important he sees it. Are, with little doubt, his greatest achievements in scholarship. So this is Aleister Crowley writing about himself in the third person. This is Aleister Crowley writing it. He's writing it as though it was somebody else, but this is himself. So now we get to the nub of the thing of, you know, why create the Book of Thoth? Because he says, for many years, he had deplored the absence of any authentic text of the tarot. So even Eliphaz Levi doesn't come up to scratch here, does he?
Although Eliphaz Levi's, how do you call it in English? Dogma and Ritual of IV Magick. It's also
based on the Magic 22 cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's also based on the tarot. This composition of the book is based on the tarot. Eh?
Well, a lot of the French writers, Papus and other ones as well, they also use the tarot as a vehicle for these things. So he says the medieval pacts are hopelessly corrupt, compiled by partisans of existing political systems. Therefore, if it's a political system, therefore it has no validity as a holy system at all. or otherwise far from presenting the ancient truth of the book in a coherent system or a shape of lucid beauty. Wow. That's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite judgmental. Let's call it like that.
Because, of course, when he was writing this in 1943, 42, 44, 80 Waite's tarot deck had been around for 20 odd years. So he's not including 80 Waite's offerings here either, is he?
Hey, but I have a tarot game, a facsimile of one of 1736 or something. It's called the Flemish Tarot or the Bacchus Tarot. And in that tarot, the Hierophant is actually Bacchus.
Who is?
Dionysus.
Huh?
Yeah. So I was thinking if Crowley would have known that, I'm pretty sure he would have appreciated that.
Yeah. But I mean, it didn't stop him. You know, he was inspired by whatever it says about these decks and their origins and how corrupt they are. He's still inspired by them. You know, you don't start from scratch. The Beatles, you know, when they first started, you know, as a band, you know, they were doing covers of other people's stuff. And it is only later that they started writing their own things. You know, musicians, they you know, they're inspired to sing or play by the music that inspires them, and they start off with those things, and then they move on to their own style. That's what everyone does.
He had to color. There is a tarot game online. You can find it. I have it somewhere. A tarot game that Crowley had to colorize.
He didn't have computers in those days.
No, but like in when you go in the builders of the atom, builders of the what is it? Atom? Yes. If you join them, you get blank tarot cards, and you have to color them yourself.
Right.
But Crowley did that. I have images of these. He made the whole major arcana, but there's nothing special about it. You know, it's just.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, the Golden Dawn. They actually had these black outline drawings of the major arcana and the other cards as well. You know, it's you'd need that to. I mean, the picture says 1,000 words, doesn't it? You know, for whatever obscure Kabbalistic or other points you're making, having a picture of the drawing of the card there is going to make a big difference. Nothing wrong with that. So now this is an interesting thing because, you know, as we said of Eliphaz Levi, Crowley believed himself. Eliphaz Levi died the same year Crowley was born. And Crowley believed that he was an incarnation of Eliphaz Levi. And the Magical System, Book 4 in particular, is based upon Eliphaz Levi's writings with the blinds removed because he transposed things so that people would know what's really going on. And MacGregor Mathers corrected all these sort of things. So then he says, it had from the beginning of his study been his fervent wish to construct a worthy text. Eliphaz Levi had himself wished to execute a similar task, but succeeded only in leaving us two of the Artu, the Chariot and the Devil, which are tremendously important tarot cards in themselves. Anyway, I mean the Chariot in the Book of Thoth and the Devil card in the Book of Thoth, both owe a lot to Eliphaz Levi's descriptions, don't they? So that's his tribute, if you like, to Eliphaz Levi and those two cards. Many others have attempted the work, but without even the knowledge of the true attributions. Everyone's all over the place on these things. Their attempts have been gross, senseless, pitifully grotesque.
Oh, well, this is a timeless comment. I think it still applies. Come on.
Yeah. But the masters, remember, were the ones who transmitted the Book of the Law to him in 1904, March 17th, 18th, and April 17th, 18th, and 19th. Who had watched, guided, and chastised the author of this present volume, had in store the reward of his labours. So the reward is Frieda Harris, because he says they introduced him to a skilled artist, Frieda Harris, who, though she had little or no previous knowledge of the tarot, possessed in her own right the essential spirit of the book. That's a pretty powerful endorsement of her talents and abilities, isn't it? Because she was an accomplished artist to start with, and she was a co-mason. That's probably how she's introduced, and she used to do the tracing boards for the order, which are sort of a schematic of the rituals done in symbolic
with
form.
the pillars and the
And you can actually find them online in various places. Designs. So she's got real talent, you see.
Well, but she did have a very big influence on the shaping of the Thoth deck as well, eh?
This is what we're coming to. This is what we're coming to next.
To the Golden Dawn descriptions, eh?
Yeah.
And at first, when she came with her ideas, he didn't like her ideas at all, eh?
No,
but she really pushed him.
Yeah. She stood up to him.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she didn't take any shit from Aleister. Well,
yeah,
she
because
took a lot.
Everyone talks about the Crowley Tarot, but her name is worth mentioning as well, because she had a great deal to do with how it looks now. And
it was her job to interpret his ideas and formulate into a coherent picture. I mean, 70, to create 78 pictures with a consistent theme across them is no mean feat. You have to have real talent to be able to do that.
Well, as the artist who made it, because it's not Crowley who made the tarot, it's based on Crowley's knowledge.
Yeah,
but
it's a theme.
Harris who made it.
Absolutely, and he's making it clear. And he says, together they bent their energies to the formidable task of preparing the 78 cards of the Book of Thoth. So then he's still in the third person here. His original idea had been to execute a pack after the tradition of the medieval editors, corrected in the light of the descriptions given in the Equinox 1, volume 7 and 8. Now, of course, what he's described, the Equinox volume 7 and 8 is, of course, the Golden Dawn system and descriptions of the tarot cards. And the problem is that, in those descriptions, they say, 10 rayed angelic hands. If you're gonna, it's kind of like Edward Scissorhands, of light. It just dominated every picture, basically. And it produced a grotesque effect. We've had grotesque before, haven't we? So he's liking grotesque in this one. And she also observed that his teaching, in the course of his explanations, went far higher and deeper than anything in any accessible models. So she's saying, well, Aleister, you know your stuff. You need to incorporate in this tarot. This is what we've got to do.
Well, and because this has got to do with magic, you probably, I'm not meaning this in a dirty way, but he probably did go deeper.
Yes. You had to bring in sex in somewhere, Bart, didn't you?
No, I'm trying not to bring in sex. I'm talking about...
you made it. You've done it now. She was probably one of the few women who he didn't.
Yeah, that's what because usually, normally if you connect any woman to Crowley,
they get destroyed.
He shagged her.
Yeah.
But
probably not.
Harris.
I think she doted and adored him as well.
That's probably that's probably the reason why she's the only one who stuck around till he died.
Well, she was pretty much, she was, she executor of his will as well, you see. So, she was there at the funeral too.
She was good to him.
She was very good to him.
And
she was the woman he never had in his life otherwise. So she accordingly forced him, the laziest man in 3 continents. Well, laziness is, for his outputs of writing and everything else, I think lazy is rather, it's not the...
No way.
No way was he lazy. to undertake what is to all intent an original work. Well, of course, it's original work. It is an original work. And he includes the latest discoveries in modern science. We know that because he talks about advanced mathematics.
The canals on Mars are the background of the devil card. And that was the latest discovery in those times. They used to think the lines on Mars were canals.
Yes, yes.
And they had maps of those. And
yes.
you can see these on the background of the devil.
Right. Yes. So on that note, I mean, he also brought in quantum mechanics and Einstein's theories as well, the curvature of space, his geometry and mathematics, and all these kind of subjects that are in there as well. Philosophy and anthropology. In a word, to reproduce the whole of his magical mind pictorially on the skeleton of the ancient Kabbalistic tradition. So he's uniting the latest, the latest with the earliest here as well. The traditions of Kabbalah and everything with the latest advances in science.
It's about time someone did that now again, because
no one's done it since, have they?
Well, I do find. Come on, we could use another Crowley who really updates the magical knowledge to the current situation.
Well, that's your job, Bart. That's your part.
Oh, there's already enough Crowleys,
And then he says he accepted this colossal burden. It renewed his energy and his enthusiasm. Wow.
Yeah, because by then...
It's a real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, but by then it must have been about 1940, 1939, something like that.
38, yeah. He says the work extended to 5 years, so that's probably in 1938 he started in some form before the Second World War began. And it's completed in June 1944 or whatever.
So it was already 63 when they started on it.
Yeah. Her success as his interpreter surpasses belief. She had to work from his very rough sketches, often from mere descriptions, or from reading between the lines of the old pack. So she's doing a synergistic thing here. The video we did last week was on some of these earlier drawings and designs. We have some
sketches he made it.
Yeah, and the sketches, yeah. And with incredible rapidity, she picked up the rhythm and with inexhaustible patience submitted to the corrections of the fanatical slave driver. We can imagine that, can't we? It's sort of, you've got to get it right, do it again. We don't know how many versions they were. We know there's 3 or 4 versions of some of the cards, and it probably is the same number for the other ones as well, if not more.
I have 8 versions of the Magus.
8 versions of the Magus. Well, there we are.
I have all 8 of them, I think.
Wait. So if you can do a video on that, Bart, I'll let you, and I'll chip in with the with comments. Often painting the same card as many as 8 times, he says there, until it measured up to his vanadium steel yardstick. Could well have been the Magus he's talking about there.
Probably.
And then there's this interesting, it's a kind of an affirmation that comes next, isn't it? He's moved, we've had the background, we've had the history, we've had his grades and the structures and his magical history of his life. And then he comes to this part here, which is a kind of panegyric, I suppose. It's an endorsement of her abilities and talents, because he says, may the passionate love under will, which of course is from the Book of the Law, which she has stored in this treasury of truth and beauty. Beauty, of course, is Tippereth, and truth is Armet, and treasury is where the gold and things are things. Flow forth from the splendor, which is Netzach, and strength of her work, which will be the last card, to enlighten the world. May this tarot serve as a chart for the bold seamen of the new aeon. Careful how I say that one. To guide them across the great sea of understanding to the city of the pyramids.
He says a lot in this sentence.
It's a huge. We've done, how many videos have we done talked about the abyss, crossing the abyss?
Yes.
And the great sea of understanding is Bina. The city of pyramids is also related to that. So we're all above the abyss in a supernal triangle basis.
Well, if you say pyramids, you say desert. If you say desert, you say camels.
Camels is the high priestess.
Exactly.
So there is where, if you wondered where the Book of Thoth is situated, it's at the top of the tree of life. It's really powerful. And then he says at the bottom, this is the final line pretty much. The accompanying booklet was dashed off by Aleister Crowley without help from parents. Its perusal may be omitted with advantage. What?
Oh, well, at least he didn't tell us to burn it this time.
and here's S.H. Sora IWE. So this is probably Frieda Harris, and he's given her the grade of 8 = 3. So, she's pretty high up in order to do this.
She did that quickly.
Yeah, she did it quicker, didn't she? Got that. It took Crowley longer than 5 years, 6 years to get through to the top.
Yeah.
So there we are. This is, this page and a half that's in the beginning of the Book of Thoth. If you wanted a summary of what the Book of Thoth is about, this is it. And this is why we love the tarot. This is why we find it so fascinating. And there's a comment you made last week, Bart, which ended up on the cutting floor, was about, where do you get this stuff about the tarot these days? Who talks about it? Who writes about it? Blank. You were going on about it last week.
What are you on about?
You switched off, didn't you?
What, love?
You switched off.
I was listening, but I didn't think you were asking. I thought your question was rhetorical.
No. Bart, who
Yeah.
who is most passionate about promoting the tarot? Where do you get all the knowledge? Where?
From Crowley?
Yeah, and who writes about it and talks about it now?
You.
And you. And Graham as well. There isn't anyone else who's sort of, we keep on finding new things to talk about that goes deeper into this knowledge.
We're still staying on the surface. It is true, though. I mean, we have to keep our videos a bit viewer friendly.
Yes. We've mentioned quite a few tarot cards this evening, so we're okay. We're still on the Book of Thoth many, many times, and Frieda Harris. So, this is, if you want to know what are the books to learn the Book of Thoth, here they are. This is Crowley's writings, Crowley studies. And we're not suggesting that you need to be initiated into one of these orders, because there are many Golden Dawn orders now, aren't there? I couldn't tell you if any of them are valid or useful or anything else, but he's underlining the legitimacy and where the tarot comes from, as far as he's concerned. It's Kabbalah, modern science, the traditions of the magical orders, and it's Enochian magic as well. If you wanted a lifetime study, you couldn't do worse than pick up Book of Thoth, my copy. Look at it, falling apart. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if please like and thumbs up and register. What is it? Subscribe. That's the thing you got to do.
Oh yeah, we're on YouTube now. And visit our Facebook pages.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got
What
two
is
of
it?
them. We're greedy. We have two of them there. And if you got any comments and stuff, we'd love to hear from you of your experiences, of the mystical and magical experiences of the Book of Thoth. Until next week, see you then.